Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dualta, and in this podcast series, I will be speaking to investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world, and we'll be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. Today, I'm going to bring you to Singapore, and we're speaking to Craig Johnson. He's a director of technology at Ehtos BeathChapman, who have been recently acquired by a larger group. So we had a bit of a chat about that, about his journey, his beginnings at S3, and what led him and his wife to making the move to Singapore, back to the UK, and then back to Singapore again. And we got a bit of a better understanding of what life is like out there. Craig spent most of his career in oil and gas recruitment and rode that wave for a few years before the crash, like I did myself. So we had a bit of common ground talking about the good times and that, and the shock of that crash. Same very much as yesterday's guest, and but now he's loving life out in Singapore and loving life as a tech recruiter out there. Interesting learning about how diverse the market is out there and how a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't really work in Singapore. Over to Craig. Craig Johnson, how are you today?
I'm very good. Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. It's a nice day for a change. Where am I calling to in the world?
You're calling to Singapore. I would say sunny Singapore, but it's not so sunny today, to be honest.
Oh, I bet it's nicer than here. So, Craig, you're on your holidays recently, right? Where'd you go?
I was. We just had a few days in Langkawi, which is a Malaysian island about an hour and 15-minute flight from Singapore. So it's not too far away.
Does your dollars go a bit further there?
It didn't where we stayed.
Your wife would get on with mine then.
Yeah, exactly. If I had my way, I'd be in a beach hut somewhere, drinking the local beer. But it wasn't that cheap. But
wouldn't we all, right?
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's marginally better than Singapore, but it's it's just a nice little breakaway and not too far away.
Was it just a few days, or did you go for an extended one?
No, it was just Wednesday till Sunday, just to sort of get over the Christmas period, really, because when you live abroad, traveling home for Christmas is not really a holiday. No. But you need one to get over it.
Yeah. Any kids to bring home?
Yeah, one, a little boy, 2 years old, just turned 2 at Christmas.
All right, so at least you had some babysitters at home, hey?
Yeah, that's the advantage, definitely.
So thanks for coming on the podcast. We've been in touch for a while, and I suppose I just wanted to get an insight into your life in Singapore, and what led you there. You're from the Northeast, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm originally from North Yorkshire, and not too far from Middlesbrough. So unfortunately, I'm a Middlesbrough fan. So that wasn't a choice I had.
And you got a bit of a baptism of fire in recruitment, didn't you? You started at an interesting time.
Yeah, well, I started with S3 back in 2011, and it was right in the midst of the oil and gas boom. So I went straight in as a 360 consultant from day one. Back then in S3 there was no such thing as a researcher model or a 180. It was kind of straight in at the deep end.
I started in the same year actually with Robert Walters. Very
Right.
similar, like taking advantage of that oil and gas boom. But I was in
Yeah.
it was in Australia. Were you local? Were you in Middlesbrough at the time?
No, I was in Manchester.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was based in Manchester, but operating mainly the Aberdeen market. We did a little bit in London, but it was mainly Aberdeen and the North Sea stuff.
Yeah, it was money for fun then. It was, um, what were you recruiting for? Was it geologists or engineers or?
I started in drilling engineering, like drilling and like well services stuff, and then did that for a couple of years in Aberdeen. I did recruit geologists, geophysicists, petrophysicists, all that sort of stuff, but that was in Norway a little bit later on. So yeah, it was, but all upstream exploration type oil and gas, all the good stuff.
So you stayed in S3 for nearly 5 years. What kept you there? It's a long time in a big agency.
Yeah, well, it was constant progression. I was fortunate enough. I did fairly well from the off, really.
Got into a good discipline.
Yeah, I mean S3. It's great. It's a great basis for anybody who wants to get in to recruitment. I mean, the training's unbelievable. You just got to look at how many sort of £100 million plus businesses have spawned out of people who've gone through that S3 training scheme. So yeah, like I said, it was constant promotions, constant progression, challenges, and when you're there, the S3 are great at the culture side, and you kind of have this belief that there's nothing outside of S3, and that's what great companies do. So that's what kept me there, I think, as long as I did. To be honest, you never know. I may still have been there if the oil price didn't go the way it did.
Yeah. I remember being at Robert Walters for a few years, and I used to think that other people at other agencies were sick. There was something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Like if you had said that you were working for S3, I would have thought you were working in a supermarket. And that's the cultural brainwashing that goes on in large firms, and they're really good at it.
Yeah.
So you had. How did you find the intensity of working in a large agency for so long? Were you able to kind of maintain that the whole way through, or was there points when you were like, you know what, is there more to life than this?
Towards the end, I think yes, but like I said, I rode that oil and gas wave for literally from the minute I joined till about year 4. When the crash happened. So it was all good until then, and then there was once the crash had hit, and there was nothing really happening. There was still a period where the loyalty's still there. You want to dig deep, you want to hang around, you want to make it work.
That's tough, eh?
It's tough, yeah. And then it gets to the point where you just think, a change is due.
Yeah, look, I had our guest yesterday was in oil and gas, and I was discussing with him what that crash was like. It's very hard to describe to somebody. I know we all had the recession in 2008, but that oil and gas crash, if you're centered to it, everything just stopped like instantly. And I remember being in a room in Calgary going, this was a bad mistake.
Yeah. It's funny because it's a very candidate-driven market. So, you're as much as you get the full spectrum of training around, going out, developing business, winning business, and it was by no means easy to win business in oil and gas. But in many ways, if I look back, the door openers were your product a lot of the time. And candidate was king. if you got a great CV and nobody else had it, you could open BP. It was that sort of time. But then when the crash came, it wasn't about that. It became job driven overnight. So you're going from you're getting these candidates that you couldn't get hold of at all, and all of a sudden you've got 15 of them emailing you, calling you, saying, "Can you help me out?" And you're like, "No."
That's tough.
Yeah, so it flipped it all, completely on its head, and it became all about trying to win business, and and if you do get a shot of a job, get there quickly and get it covered. But even then, there was hardly anything about it. Everyone was laying off. It almost got to the point where we're speaking to our clients, and it got a bit embarrassing to say, look, is there any hiring plans? Because it was like, well, are you not reading the news? Are you serious? It was it got really bad.
And it's funny, some markets are candidate driven, and it's a term that's thrown out there a bit, but oil and gas is specifically really candidate driven, because the candidates are very mobile, so the recruiters tend to work a big geographical location. So it's even more so than any other industry. So I can imagine when that tap turned off, it must have been tough. So you're nearly 5 years in at this stage, and you join, looks to me like a boutique. What was that? Was that tough, moving from one of the largest firms in the world and being a rising star to having hit a recession and starting again?
Yeah, it was. To be fair, I mean, I was only there for a short period of time with Kerry, and the reason I left is I actually went back home to the UK for nearly a year, which ended up being a bit of a mistake.
Were you working in Norway?
No, the Norway move was still with S3. That was before I came to Singapore with S3.
Okay, sorry. You went to Singapore with S3. I didn't realize that.
Yes, yeah. So
let's jump into that. How did that move come about? What was your mandate there?
Yeah, so S3 were very good at like global mobility, and once you sort of hit senior consultant level, and if you were a decent biller, you could put your hand up, and you could apply to pretty much anywhere in the world, really. As long as there was a need there, then they would help facilitate it. So my wife had just finished her PGCE at the time, and we started thinking about making a move, and I actually interviewed with Real Staffing in San Francisco, which is another brand within S3, and I was gonna move into technology in San Francisco, like away from the oil and gas thing.
That would have been an interesting move, eh?
Yeah, well, when I look back now, I think that might have been the move I should have made. But,
yeah.
And it was kind of going well, and it wasn't exactly signed, sealed, delivered, but it was getting that way. And then I got a call from Mike Walker, who was the global head of Progressive Global Energy at the time, which was the big oil brand under S3, who I was working for in the UK. And he said, do you fancy Donna Lau's desk? And are you familiar? You probably know Donna Lau. She's doing direct stuff now. But she's a bit of a legend in S3, and she was doing a couple of million sing a year here on drilling, and I was doing drilling in Europe. And he said, look, Donna's looking to come back home. We could do a bit of a swap here. So also there was a sort of fast track opportunity to move into a management role within the perm team. And at the time, the oil perm team for Southeast Asia was 28 people. So it was a massive opportunity. It was a number one perm team in the whole of S3 globally. They were killing it. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. So we sort of switched focus from San Francisco, and me and the missus ended up out here in Singapore, and within a month of being here, the oil price crashed.
Oh man.
So
yeah. So that was 2015. That would have been February, was it?
No, it was very late 2000. No, in fact, it was 2000 and when was it? 2014, late 2014. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Oh man. So you've moved your whole life there. The oil and gas price crashes.
Yeah.
Are you thinking this whole move was a mistake? What's your thought process then? Like, has your wife got a job? What was that whole thing like?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I stayed at S3 until I think it was March 2016. So I was there for a good 18 months as the price came down. Sort of fought through it, but obviously it wasn't a very good year. The billing wasn't there. It was just all about trying new things, trying to keep our head above water, looking at sectors which were similar to oil, where our brand would make sense, but it was perhaps still busy. So we looked at downstream oil, we looked at shipping, we looked at chemicals, we looked at diversifying in whatever we could, but it just wasn't working for whatever reason. So, and I think when you're not doing well, you tend to look at the negative, the negatives more than the positives. Eventually, you remain positive for as long as possible, but you can't do it forever. So, and then I started thinking about the type of environment I want to be in, and I thought maybe it's time to get into a little bit more of a mature boutique search type of environment, which sort of led me to start looking out, and that's when I moved to Kerry.
And was that back in the UK? Did you move back home?
No, so Kerry was here.
Okay, all right.
So I moved to Kerry Consulting, which is like a local boutique search firm, and I was there for a few months. But then my wife fell pregnant. Well, my wife was pregnant when I joined there, and she had a bit of a rough pregnancy, so we ended up moving home.
Yeah. I know how that goes as well.
Yeah, well, I think you did a similar thing, right?
Yeah. I had a whole thing planned out. We were on the road, and we were going to travel through Europe, and then all of a sudden Charlotte was like, I want to have a baby. It'll be okay though. It won't affect things. I'll have it in Portugal. Or 4 months later, I was living in Arundel in West Sussex.
Yeah, it was similar for us. I mean, your perspective changes.
It does.
What we've had our couple of years out here, and we thought, let's go home. It'll be great. Grandparents are there, families there, aunties and uncles and all that. And you think now is the time to go back. So, I made this sort of early move away from Kerry, based on wanting to get back home to start the family. But it wasn't very long of being at home when we started to think about the move back, and
that's fascinating. So you go home, you have a kid, and man, I know how tough that is. Like, your world completely changes, and you get addicted to having a bit of support from the grandparents. Like, my mother-in-law's in the house all the time. My mum helps out the odd weekend as well, and you get kind of cozy. That must have been a big decision between you and the wife to transplant yourself back to Singapore again, especially with a young kid. Walk us through what those conversations were like.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, the move back was on the family was tougher than it was when we just went, because there was it was the first grandkid was in there, on my side of the family, but it was my mom's first grandkid, so she was distraught. We just literally ruined her life. But it's the decision to come back actually wasn't hard, to be honest. Other than that piece, I don't want to sound cold, but other than leaving the family, it wasn't that hard. And we went back. I got a job for a company called Nigel Wright. An absolutely cracking business. Like, they really are a phenomenal company. And I was based in Newcastle for them, but I had like an hour and 20-minute drive there and back a day. So I was in the car for 2.5 hours every day, and it just, and I was really enjoying the job. We were living in a nice place, but then you start to realize how good you had it. Not just because of the weather and all that sort of stuff, but recruiting here is great. Compared to going back and doing everything phone based from a distance, because you're operating a national market from the northeast, so anywhere is a 2 or 3 hour drive. And it got us thinking that we've maybe we've thrown the towel in a little bit early on the overseas stuff, and we could go back out. We could have a few more years. We could make establish ourselves financially a bit better, and before going back to the the small village in North Yorkshire. There's plenty of time to do that. So yeah, we came back.
You transitioned to technology at this stage. It was that through Nigel Wright, was it?
No, so Nigel Wright, I did FMCG.
Right.
Yeah. Which was, so I was placing national account managers into like food and beverage companies, or consumer products businesses, that type of thing, which was good. It was very enjoyable. It was the type of people that you're dealing with were very similar to recruiters in a way. It's a sales type of role. It's account driven. You're sort of dealing with a lot of like-minded people. But again, the types of fees that you're getting, it just didn't even come close to what you were doing here. So
yeah, what would the average fee be doing like that in the UK? I'm guessing it's about 7,000-8,000.
Yeah, I'd say so. 7, 8, 9K. If you're getting in anything above 12, it's seen as a bigger deal. Whereas here that's a small fee. So
yeah, is your from 15 to 20
over here?
Yeah.
Probably a bit more, to be fair.
In British pounds. Wow.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, a touch more.
Yeah, I remember being an expat has a certain great buzz about it as well. What's it like in Singapore from a social perspective? Is there still lots of UK recruiters out there, or would you walk down the street and kind of go, oh yeah, I know him and all the rest, or is it a bigger city than that?
No, it's tiny. It's weird. I bump into people all the time, as though I'm living in like a small town back in the northeast. It's a strange place, but the expat community is brilliant. You just, before you know it, tons and tons and tons of people, through business, but outside of business. If you make a move abroad, and you probably experience this, as soon as people know that you're moving somewhere, they start introducing you to people that they know there. So it's like, oh, my uncle lives there. You should hook up with him, or but one of my colleagues moved there, and you end up knowing people here before you even land, and then you just get plugged into different groups of people all the time. So yeah, it's a really small place, and from a sort of competitor perspective, you end up becoming quite friendly in many respects with people that you compete with in the market. And even if you're not too friendly with them, you know exactly who they are. Whereas, when I was in Manchester for S3, you had no interest in who the competition was. You didn't know who they were, where their office was, where they drank. It wasn't that. It just wasn't like that. But when you come here, it's funny. Like, you end up knowing everybody in your market.
Yeah, I was on a football team. Two different. One was an indoor team, and it was full of Robert Half and a few other the other consultancies, and the same with the same with my outdoor football team. And it was just that mix, because if you're in any of the big agencies, generally people will move on, and then they'll be mates with somebody else, and before you know it, it's like a scene from Anchorman on a Friday night.
Yeah, that's literally the analogy I use.
Yeah.
It's like teams of recruiters everywhere. It's like that. Yeah, it's that scene in Anchorman where all the news crews have the big fights. Yeah, that's kind
of... and when you're getting settled there, and this time you have a kid, so it's different. You're not Craig, the lad that can just go out for a beer whenever. Like, things are a wee bit different this time. Are you finding it actually easier in terms of you're probably a bit more committed to the location, and you're associating almost with more families rather than people who are just fresh off the boat?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose a big thing is, and this is one of the reasons why we actually moved home in the first place, ironically. But one of the big changes that happens in your life when you live out this way with the kid is that you have domestic help. So you have a maid living with you who helps with taking care of the kids and looking after the house, because you don't have that family support what you do at home. So it's your only option, unless you're going to pay crazy sort of daycare fees, which make the UK fees look considerably cheap. So that's a big change coming back here with the family, and that's something that we were quite hesitant about, to be honest with you, because it's being brought up in Europe, unless you're very, very wealthy, having people, having staff type of thing in your house is alien.
What does your mum think about that?
She's fine with it, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I think she's seen the the relationship that Jessica has with our little boy, and how it works, and I think she's good with it. But I think it's funny you mention that, because I think at first there was, I think there's a degree that that there's going to be a relationship there which is stronger than the one that she's going to have with our little boy.
Yeah. And from a business perspective, you came back in, you're doing technology, you decided to go for a boutique this time. What was your thought process after being indoctrinated for so long in S3, and then having a bit of a stop-start time between being over in Singapore and leaving, and your wife getting pregnant, going back, and then back again? You must have been thinking, okay, I need to really choose my employer right this time.
Yeah, exactly. I think I wanted to, like you said, after a bit of a stop-start and experience of a couple of different companies, you form a better picture of what's actually going to work for you personally. And I think EBC has been that right mix for me. I had a good friend working there as well, Nick Pelling, who actually introduced me to the business, and so I got a really good inside perspective on what I was getting myself into. It's a business that's on a real growth trajectory, which is not everybody is at the moment in Singapore. There's a few firms that are having some tough times, but EBC has been the opposite. It's been nothing but positive news and growth since I came on board, and I think also there's I mean, we were set up in 2012, so we're still very new. So there's that sense that there's still a lot to achieve, and that there's a lot of things that I can affect and implement, and bring things to the table which I've seen elsewhere, where if you go to a more established business you can't necessarily do that. And also with the acquisition which was coming up, which is now complete. We're now part of a much bigger organization called the Will Group. So I was aware that not only was that drive to build something there, but there was going to be the financial backing to do it as well. So it ticked a lot of boxes for me, basically.
Yeah, and so that's interesting that you're part of the acquisition. What did that mean as a director? Was there anything that you had to keep an eye on in terms of like when you were working up, when your owner is it Andrew? Is that his name?
No, so it's Andrew Keys is the MD of the Australian business.
Okay.
And Matt Beath is the MD here in Singapore.
Okay. So with Matt, was there anything when you're working up towards a sale? Was he saying, okay, like we need to get extra headcount on, or we need to work on profitability? What were those conversations like in the lead up to being acquired?
Yeah, well, there's two parts to the acquisition. There was initial investment, and then 18 months later it became like the completion of it. So obviously there was various, milestones to achieve along the way. So it was very much, I came in through that, in the middle of that, if you know what I mean. And I came into like a really buzzing place, all pulling together, trying to achieve, a common goal. So it was all just about, growing, building, defining, the structure and who we are, and what the message is and what it's going to be moving forward. So yeah, just a lot of just driving forward, really.
It must have been exciting to come in and be part of that, from being from like S3, where I appreciate you might have had a part, but you're really a number of one of the, like I don't know what are they, $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So like to coming in and seeing that, okay, we just have to get to this point. Here's all the stuff we have to do. Must have been a great buzz.
Yeah, it is. And you start getting exposed to things that you don't get exposed to in a big company, and it was a good time. It still is. I'm acting like it's somewhere in the past, but it's still going strong now, and the growth is still there, and the appetite's huge.
If you had a time machine, or let me give you a different question. If you were that guy you were at S3 right now, and you were thinking of making the move to Singapore, what advice would you give yourself?
I'd give myself more options, to be honest. I was extremely loyal to S3, to the point where I didn't even consider the thought of speaking to any other companies to see what other options I might have. Making the move, it was just a no-brainer for me. It was, well, I'm S3 and I'll move with S3.
But I think till you die.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd probably give myself a few more options. At least to just get a feel of my worth in the market, but also other ways of doing things. Because there's a lot of different methods out there. There's a lot of different approaches. The landscape's very diverse. So I think I'd give myself more options.
And you're giving yourself more options, and you make a choice. When you go in there and you start, what advice would you have for somebody who's come from the UK or the Australian market to be successful in Singapore? And what type of pitfalls have you seen from people who've moved across? Because expat culture, in my experience of recruiting for it and for being out there, some people who go on a bit of a holiday, some people who go in a bit too gung-ho, there's some people who adapt and some people who don't. What lessons kind of learned could you
offer up?
I think you got to be, cultural sensitivity is the number one thing that you need to learn. It's a very diverse place. My team, for example, I've got a Filipino, a Korean, a German, a Singaporean. We've got a Pole. That's just on my desk. You've got to be aware that not everybody is comes from the same background as you and has got the same views as you and has socializes in the same way as you do. You've got to that's got to be in you from the minute you get here to be successful. And you've got to listen and you've got to tailor yourself to suit different situations. Is the biggest piece of advice I'd give, because over here it's not a one size fits all type of market. One day you could be dealing with a local guy, the next day you're dealing with an American, then you're dealing with an Australian, and it's a very diverse market.
You have to roll with the punches, do you?
Yeah, you've got to, and I think it's competitive here, but in a different way. When you're in the UK, I think you find that you're competing a lot more with maybe a lot more quantity in the market. There's a lot more competition out there, but it's not always the best competition. Now, I'm not saying the UK is full of bad recruiters. That's not the case at all.
Just full of a lot.
There's a lot more, yeah. But where you come over here and, you can't get away with being a bad recruiter here. You get found out pretty quickly, and the expectation level from your clients is a lot higher. If just breaking it down to a sort of tactical sense, your CV sent to interview ratios better be good here. You can't just send out a load of stuff in the hope that some of it's going to stick. So you've got to. It's competitive, but in a different way. You've got to step your game up. You've got to be good.
Yeah, it sounds like Australia to me.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know the Australian market, to be honest, but
in Perth anyway, like very, very regional focused. You have to get out there. You have to meet people. If you misstep, everybody will know about it. Whereas America, it's funny. Americans will tell you it's relationship driven, but UK recruiters over there will tell you the opposite. So, because it's such a big company, and a lot of the scalable businesses that you mentioned that have come from S3, they might be operating the whole country out of New York. So if you do get a good candidate, you probably are going to put them out to quite a few,
Yeah.
But I can imagine that tactic wouldn't go down too well in Singapore.
No, I think. We're still working largely a competitive contingent landscape, but it's contingent in the sense that you're up against maybe one or two others. You're not competing on huge PSLs. At least we don't anyway. But it's still candidate driven. Technology is still pretty candidate driven. So, as much as you've got your clients to serve, you've also, it's within your interest to give your candidates multiple options as well. So there is an element of that, but it's done in maybe a little bit more of a controlled way than you see in other markets.
And what's the story with visas out there? I get some conflicting information.
Yeah, well, I've sort of give up trying to understand the MOM and how decisions are made. I think I hear a lot that EPs are hard to get, but in the same, where I think in the last 18 months I've seen one case where we couldn't get an EP for a certain candidate. But in the same sense, we do focus a lot on local candidates and
You just mentioned a Korean, a Pole,
yeah.
German.
Oh, so you're talking about sorry, I think you're talking about our actual business. Oh no, so internally, we've got a good mix, but I think the key is you need to keep a good local core to your business, for many reasons. You not just visa reasons, but I think you need for if we're looking at it from a purely visa perspective, then you need to keep it a healthy sort of 70% local headcount. I think is the kind of unwritten rule, but I think we do that. I think we're around about that mark, maybe if not a little bit more.
Does that give you carte blanche to hire anybody from outside then, or do they have to have a certain amount of experience and qualifications?
Yeah, so I think it's experience is a big thing. Qualifications are a big thing. Although I don't have a degree, and that was a bit of an issue when I first came over. I struggled with the visa.
Even though you had 5 years experience, eh?
Yeah.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, I struggled. I think they look at salary as well. I think they look at what you're getting paid. They look at your job title. They look at your responsibilities. And I think, it's that mix of experience and education. We had a guy come over recently from the UK, and I think he's got about 3 or 4 years experience, but he's got a good educational background to support that, and we got his visa pretty easily. So
it seems like 2 to 3 years plus a degree seems to be the golden ticket for a lot of locations, or 5 years without. That's
but 5 years at least without a degree.
Wow.
And I got into recruitment at 26, so I've got a bit of experience before recruitment, so I can throw that into the visa application as well. But we've never had too many problems, to be honest.
No, fair enough. So that's it for today, Craig. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us a bit of an insight into your life out there and the opportunities that are available.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a great day, and we will talk again soon.
You too. Catch you later, mate.
Well, a massive thank you to Craig for coming on the podcast. Singapore sounds like a decent old spot. It's tough to get the visas for recruiters. But if you do have a few years and a degree, then it's a decent option if you can manage to get there. I think the tax rate's around 10%. The percentage fees that you could be charging clients could be up to 30%. So I think that works out quite well on your take home if you're comparing it to the UK or Australia, where it might be 15 or 17 or even lower, and you're paying 30 to 40 to 50% tax depending on where you sit. And so there's just that bit more money to be made, and good opportunities out there. I regret I never got to do a year or two working in Singapore, Hong Kong or Tokyo, but you can't go everywhere. I suppose this is the best I can hope for at this stage, and hopefully next year we will bring the podcast out there and do some live podcasts with some of our clients, including Craig. So hope you all enjoyed that. If you have any questions, hit me up. If you're enjoying the podcast, let me know if you want to come on. Just reach out. I'm recording most days now, sometimes even twice a day. And we're just trying to bring you as many stories and experiences from the recruitment industry as possible. And it's been great crack. So I hope you're all enjoying it as much as I am. And we will be back with another fantastic guest either later today or tomorrow. Catch you later.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.